I'm going to call the second part of our meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Okay. Does anybody have any changes to the agenda?
I just want to let you know that Melanie is here. She's going to let her go first.
Okay. Okay.
Did we want to add a discussion about the tabulation to this meeting or next one?
No, because
We don't have
it
the
is,
info?
it's a, because it has money attached to it, we have to put it on the next.
Got it.
But we'll put it on the next agenda then.
Okay.
Christine, did that noise come up because somebody was trying to get in the meeting? You're the organizer.
It was for starting the recording.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Okay. I don't have with me my blurb about public participation, but that's further down. Approval of minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of both July 17th and July 31st.
So moved.
Second.
For the sake of expediency, since Rebecca is the only person not here with us,
Rebecca is, oh, no, sorry.
all those in favor, including Rebecca, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 But I was not at I was at the emergency meeting, but I was not at the meeting prior to the emergency.
That's the next part. Are there any abstentions?
Okay. I'm just gonna excuse myself for a moment.
I'm also going to abstain from, for the, actually, we should probably do the minutes separately. Because Rebecca and I were both.
Withdraw the motion.
I withdraw the motion.
All those in favor of withdrawing the motion, please say aye.
Do you need a
Aye.
second?
Aye.
Do you
No.
need a second to
No,
withdraw?
for a procedural vote like that, we don't need a second.
So should I say I move that we accept the minutes of July 17?
Christine, you might need to move Rebecca.
There she is. Okay, Rebecca, since
Yeah.
we're gone, we just rescinded the original motion. We're going to vote on the minutes separately.
Okay,
Okay, so I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of July 17th.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from July 17th, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor, they say no. And are there any abstentions? I abstain.
I abstain.
Okay, and now I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of July 31st.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from, which are like 2 lines long, the meeting from July 31st, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, board involvement report. I'm not sure I know what this is.
Is that the survey we took?
No, it's, you're reporting back when you go have lunch with the kids, that we put that on there
Oh.
months ago.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, but there's no involvement right now. 'cause it's
I was
summer.
gonna say, okay, so much.
I should have taken it off the agenda. So that's the report.
Yeah.
There is no current involvement.
Still on summer vacation.
We were involved in a tour today, so that's part of it for now.
Okay.
One thing about like the tour, do we want to make that an annual? Does it make sense for that to be the annual thing? That both boards tour the schools once per year?
I think it makes sense.
I think it's something we can plan to do. I don't think we need to have any motions or make it part of, it's
Yeah, let's keep
common
it on our
sense.
radar.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I think
that's
so.
a good idea. It's lovely to see it before school starts because everything's so beautiful.
Okay, next is public participation.
Elizabeth, would you like me to read the opening for you?
If you wouldn't mind, that would be great.
Would you like the truncated or the extended version?
Truncated, please.
Public comments. Public comment is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse, and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed for discussion. Please start by identifying yourself and what town you reside in.
Is there any public participation? Okay. Administrative report.
Melanie,
Melanie?
you're up.
Okay, can you just tell me how much time I have? I'm sure I've created too much content, so I just want to make sure what time I have on the agenda.
Well, we're really moving right along, so I say 30 minutes, is that right?
Okay, I probably don't need that much, so great. Thank you all for having me. My name is Melanie Sheehan. I'm the Director of Community Health at Mount Ascutney Hospital and Health Center. Also, we coordinate the Mount Ascutney Prevention Partnership, which is really our substance use prevention efforts at the community level. I believe last year, or it might have been 2 years ago, we shared the youth risk behavior survey data with this board, particular to health disparities. So the 2021 Youth Risk Behavior Survey results are out. They were delayed significantly this year from the CDC through the states. So unfortunately, 2021 was 2 years ago, and we're looking at that as if it was new data. So keep that in mind. I am going to attempt to share my screen. Well, that didn't work. Sorry, I have to pick the right choice. Cancel. I'll just do the whole thing. Sorry. Woohoo. All right. So, okay, are you all able to see that? Oh, it's locking me out. Are you all seeing me type in my password? No. I don't even know what's happening. Okay, does that look like a PowerPoint presentation? Are you seeing that?
No.
All right, well, let's see. I have done this 100 times. I honestly, like, you wouldn't believe that based on my. All All right. Here we go. Okay, my apologies. We should be all set there. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to try to do this to make it official, and let's hope it will advance the slides. So quick outcomes of our of my presentation is to look at the demographics of the survey, go through a couple of important disclaimers, making sure that we have the appropriate lens or the frame that we're looking at this data and checking our assumptions, an overview looking at strengths and challenges through a SWOT analysis. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then
Any chance you could put it on present mode, because it's very small for us.
I am not getting that option. Let me see.
It's on the far left button, far left of the screen. Yeah, that.
Okay, let's try that again. Is that any better?
No, it's weird.
Okay. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to try to present it. I'm just going to do it this way. Is that any better if I don't use the presentation mode?
That's fine. Well, I'll just get closer.
Okay. I apologize. I
That's
probably
all right.
just should have come in person. So looking at the demographics, and let's see if I can make this bigger. There we go. Good. Okay. So for the youth risk behavior survey, let me just back up. We had 144 high school students, 9th through 12th grade. 9% of the population is Black, Indigenous, or persons of color, 91% white, non-Hispanic, and 38% identifying as LGBTQ. And then the middle school statistics are shared here. Similar percentages in the special populations. The reason we break those out is they are very significant in looking at our data. So, sorry, go ahead.
Just said,
This just Windsor?
Is
This is
someone
Windsor
here?
Southeast Supervisory Union.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. I realize you all are the Mount Scottney School District and you have a couple of schools within the supervisory union. Unfortunately, we don't get the data drilled down at the school level.
Okay.
So the 2021 survey year is not comparable to previous years. Due to the pandemic, they decided to change the timing that the survey was implemented. So we really can't say that the student populations are the same as done in previous years. And also because the survey was taken in the fall, generally it's taken every 2 years in the spring. But because you have students starting a new school year in the fall, that's when they took the survey. They weren't in the same place of the school year as perhaps peers in the past. They will be having different experiences at the beginning of the school year than the end. And also the ages are going to be off. So that's why statistically we can't compare years. We do show, I'm going to share with you our trend data dashboards. So you can look at this data on your own, but just keep that in mind that you can't necessarily compare year to year, even though we're showing that on a trend line. There is no trend data included in the YRBS report. So using caution, rather than looking at statistical differences in subgroups, just be considering like what might be meaningful, what might a disparity, how would that merit a targeted intervention or mean something important to the community, regardless of the statistical significance. And why we look at youth risk behavior survey data, it's really used to determine the prevalence of health behaviors and differences among subgroups of students. Schools can use the data to determine what policies or practices are needed to support students. and we in the community can assess if our programs are having intended effects. So in terms of framing, as human beings, we tend to see things as a problem, and then we want to sort of place blame or move to solution by finding, where the source of the problem is, both applying individual blame or societal blame. And so as we go in looking at this data, we really seek solutions that are grounded in civility, human-centered approaches, and just understanding that people should be at the center of the conversation, and just wanting to avoid that tendency we have to place blame. Sometimes, schools can get a blame or parents can get a blame, and that's really not where we're at. We're looking at this data to see how we can best support students in their journey and through school. So, statewide, and these are important highlights because as we go look at the data for the supervisory union, you'll notice that they very much align with what we're seeing across the state. Students are experiencing very high rates of poor mental health, anxiety, sadness, and risk of suicide. Particularly female students. The indicators are jumping off the page for females, much higher rates than male students. And they're much more likely to report self-harm, make suicide attempts, or make plans. BIPOC and LGBTQ students are significantly more likely to be treated unfairly and experiencing violence compared to their peers, and they are 3 to 4 times more likely to report self-harm, suicide plans, and attempts during the past year compared to their heterosexual or cisgender students. We continue to have concerns around substance use among most high school students. EVP stands for electronic vapor products. Those are your vapes, electronic pens, things like that. Many students are reporting the presence of protective factors. However, the state has noticed in their statistical analysis that middle school female all female middle school students and BIPOC and LGBTQ students are tending to experience protective factors at lower rates than their peers. So really, it's jumping out at me that females, BIPOC, and LGBTQ students are where we're seeing the highest categories of risk in these results. So looking at the data, just highlighted again in a strength, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats framework. The positives, high school males have a healthier perception, and this is I should say compared to their statewide peers. So compared to their statewide peers, high school males have a healthier perception of risk of use. That means they think that their peers, if they use electronic vapor products or drink alcohol or using cannabis, is a higher risk of use than their peers across the state. High school students are less likely to be riding with somebody who's been drinking alcohol. They tend to be more physically active compared to their statewide peers. The vaping rates, we really thought from a public health perspective that we would see those increase, and they're actually holding steady. And the middle school rates are trending down. So that was something that we were a bit surprised about, and that's good news. Cannabis use in middle school is down. And I shouldn't, well, it's down compared to last year, but again, we're not supposed to compare year to year, but it's lower than it was. But again, we want to avoid that comparison. And high school females are reporting at higher rates than their statewide peers education plans for further education, whether that be a tech school, a 4-year college, or something beyond associate's degree or something beyond high school. So the downside, we've already covered the poor mental health indicators, especially with high school females. We're seeing that in the local data, same as the state. There are troubling risk behaviors related to sexual activity and substance use, especially among the high school female population. High school students report that their parents, oh, sorry, that one's supposed to be on the good side. A high percent compared to their statewide peers, high school students are reporting that their parents are checking in. Who are you with? There's some good relational protective factor there that parents know who their children are with and they're checking in. Disparate population, so LGBTQ BIPOC populations are being treated differently, and we're seeing that again especially in the female population. Cannabis use is up in the high school, around 25%, or 1 in 4 students are using cannabis in the past 30 days. And less than 50% of high school males have reported further plans for education, unlike their female counterparts. And we did find, when we look at the data, we look at risk, but we also looked at those protective factors, things that decrease risk, and that schools having clear rules and consequences is a protective factor in student populations. The high school students were the same statistics as their statewide peers, so they didn't jump out as statistically significant. But the middle school students are less likely to agree that the school has clear rules and consequences at a statistically significant level. And I should just say too that any of these bullet points that made these lists are at a statistically significant level.
No, I have one quick question. This is Davis.
Yeah.
How are we defining further education plans? Is that, so I'm assuming that would include like 4-year college, also 2-year college, associates. Does it include like trade programs as well? Or I just wonder how broad.
Yep, it's all of the above. Let me see. I'm trying to find the question here. Students, they are most likely to attend a 4-year college or university, a community college or technical school after high school. So that's how the question was asked.
Okay, thank you.
So, yep, good question. So some of the opportunities in looking at this data that popped out was just really continuing to explore those disparities among subgroups. We can ask the epidemiologists at the Department of Health to give us a cross-tabulation report that can help us explore those disparities more. Cross-tabulation report is just saying, can you tell me what the suicidality plans of LGBTQ females looks like? And so they can take all those respondents. As long as there's enough of them, they can do a real targeted deeper dive that way. Because we see that high school students are reporting engagement with their parents and that checking in, we want to make sure we have some parent engagement strategies. Another opportunity, and I've talked to Christine about this already, students can explore these results through a program called Getting to Why. So we can bring the Getting to Why students can be trained at how to look at this data, and then they can create their own community report similar to what I'm doing, and have them engage their school communities and parents in that way. So it's a great opportunity for student voice. And also, it's really much more engaging for a community and for parents to hear from the kids than somebody like myself. So we're aware of that and we encourage it. I don't like the word threat, but it's part of the framework. But things to note, some indicators that seem important, we couldn't really get, if there aren't enough responses on them, they don't count in the survey. So you don't know what that data is. So it doesn't really reflect a positive thing or a negative thing. We just don't know. We didn't have enough responses. And one of the things that did jump out also, while we saw that students are less likely to ride with somebody in a car who'd been using substances, we're seeing the opposite. Middle school students have a higher incident of riding in a car with someone who's been using alcohol or cannabis at a higher rate, higher than their statewide peers. This is a lot of data. I'm just going to pause for a moment just to see, before I move on, if there's anything you had questions about or wanted me to clarify.
I have a question about the LGBTQ.
Say your name.
I'm Nancy Pedrick. Did that break down in female male by any chance? because there were so many in the middle. It was 40% and something like 37%, which is a lot.
Yeah, I think I have a slide on that later, Nancy. Let's maybe I did. Hang on, let me check. Okay, so that was so that's really a one of the demographic questions. So, and are you talking about middle school or high school, or would you like both?
Both, yeah.
Okay, so
Because you had talked about the incidence of females having more difficulty and suicidal.
yes. Yep. So the male female is an assigned gender, and LGBTQ is a gender identity. So they don't break that down on how people identify. Yeah, I'd have to. I'm sorry, it's not broken out. So to answer your question, no, it isn't broken out. But I can follow up with the epidemiologist for a breakout. But I don't. I'd have to look at how the questions are asked with the students, right? Because how they identify as yeah, I need to get more information on that.
Oh, thank you, that's.
Yeah. Okay. So let me keep moving. And see if some of the like we're gonna get into here some of the I feel like I have to show these animation or these let me try this again. Are you able to see that okay?
Mhm.
Okay. So I just wanted, these are some things that were particularly noted, particular to mental health and again, the female statistics. So, and this is how we read these tables. So reporting that their mental health was most of the time or always not good. You know, generally Vermont, the responses rate is 35%. The SU is at 41%. There's an asterisk here because that signifies statistical significance. But when you look at the breakdown, females are at 60% and then males are at 18. So we really can see that that's where that vulnerability is popping out. And then we have it further broken out across 9th and 10th grade or 11th and 12th grade. But that's really where we're seeing this, the female statistic. And then, you know, having been bothered or feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge most of the time or always, you know, the SU is at 43%, but we see that jumping up to 68% in females. And then feeling sad or hopeless, again, we're 10 percentage points higher than the state, but 54% for females and less for males. So those are really, this is just a pinpoint, just showing where we're seeing that vulnerability within the female students. And again, I just wanted to share this with the middle school. Again, the indicators are the same. But we're seeing the same trend where the SU is slightly higher than the state, but much higher in the female population. And then we can also look at, if it helps looking at the targeted grades, we're really seeing that those level of mental health indicators increasing in the upper grades in middle school, 7th and 8th grade. So that was on mental health. Looking at disparities and bullying. Most of are sometimes, most of the time, are always treated badly or unfairly because of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, or age. So the SU is much higher than the statewide response at 19%. The SU is at 31, but again, jumps up much higher to 48% for the female population. And the most of the time are always get the kind of help that they need. That's not a statistically significant change. I'm not sure why I probably shouldn't have clipped that one. Look, oh, go ahead.
Is that on the next slide?
Or is it on the bottom of this slide?
Can you scroll down a little bit? We're not,
Sorry, let me,
there.
oh, sorry.
There it is.
Oh, there it is.
You
Yes,
got
I
it?
did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and it's 19.
So looking at the bullying aspects, the SU, across the SU, we're seeing much higher statistically significant incidents of electronic bullying and bullying in general, or bullying someone else. Again, much higher statistics in the female population. So so those were the key things that really stuck out. I just wanted to just to bring you all up to speed. We have for years been looking at risk and protective factors in our supervisory unions, both here and in Windsor Central. We have monthly prevention planning meetings with Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union leadership. We've worked to gather and get some grant funding support to bring a new student assistant professional position at the high school this coming school year. We are working with local law enforcement to do a universal substance use prevention and program through grades for grades 3 and 8 this year. So that's a best practice prevention approach, prevention curriculum. It's actually there are 2 curriculums that have been shown to have positive outcomes. They're called Too Good for Drugs and Too Good for Violence. And the lead program is law enforcement and school staff being trained in those curriculums and delivering them in schools. So we are bringing that to grades 3 and 8 across the district this year. We recently had a guest speaker on mental health that met with all the students, and I believe there was a newly established middle school parent group that met towards the end of last year that I imagine will continue to support. If they continue to meet, we can continue to support them with some prevention opportunities. I think it's important to, because of the much higher risk that we see with BIPOC and LGBTQ populations, it's important that we adopt strategies and look at our communities and our culture that ensure that people feel that they matter and that they feel safe. So how we teach and lift up the value of individual and cultural differences. A lot of these behaviors around bullying or making fun or picking on somebody really are around some sort of a difference. It can be with students with disabilities, or perhaps somebody who doesn't come from a traditional home setting, or is in foster care, or whatever that may be. So really trying to culturally appreciate difference and lift that up. Ally versus allyship. An ally is somebody who has a strong, genuine concern for marginalized populations, acknowledging that challenges exist. But allyship is really demonstrating, the visual, use of pride flags, or advocating or self-educating and displaying pronouns, speaking up if people are hearing something that isn't civil, things like that. Again, addressing bullying and incivility behavior with those clear boundaries and expectations is a good way to support screening and treatment of symptoms of trauma, especially with marginalized populations, and addressing suicidality and screening for that. So when we're screening for trauma, we often will get to that where somebody may be at risk for suicidality, and somebody who might be really struggling. I just thought this was an important resource to share, just because I don't like to propose troubles without solutions. I like to share resources, but the Trevor Project is where a lot of some of this data we're seeing in our local supervisory union and in the state, we're seeing it nationally as well. So the Trevor Project is the world's largest suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization for LGBTQ young people. So there is a Trevor Project Lifeline support. That's a resource. And I imagine that we in prevention can do some messaging and get some of those resources out into the community, but also through the schools. People can chat right away with a trained professional and connecting to a crisis counselor. And then I just wanted to make sure, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because I think if this might be better. It's going to be easier for me to share a tab, I think. But I am going to give you this presentation after we meet. And then the links that are in this presentation are all live. So if you go into the presentation, you can click on them. I do want to share that we have, let's see, I think this is the right one. We have put all of our youth risk behavior survey data into a data dashboard. We do collect data, again, both for the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union and Windsor Central Supervisory Union. And and we do that because, like I said before, we're supporting both school districts. But anybody, this is a live web link. Anybody can go. Our vision for substance use is that our rates are trending down. And if you click on these, you can see, it takes a moment to load. It talks about who we serve for Windsor Southeast and our performance measures. So if you were just to pick one of these, percent of high school students who drank alcohol in the past 30 days, if you click on the plus button and expand that, we're going to get the trend lines. And again, we have to be cautious with comparing, but we do see that the substance use alcohol past 30 days for Windsor Southeast is the blue line, and that's around 23%. So, sorry,
It says share that
you can't. Oh, you can't see that tab.
Oh.
That is so weird. Hang on. It's so silly.
As you look, didn't Windsor Central change the name?
They did.
Mountain View,
Mountain View Supervisory Union.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, we'll have to update. Yeah, we built these platforms quite a while ago. So
They still refer themselves as Windsor Central. So.
oh, they do. Okay.
They
All right.
label their school district as Mountain View School District. 'Cause
No,
Vermont.
they've renamed the SU, but
Okay.
they still colloquially.
It'll take a decade.
Yeah, right.
Well, we're in that bucket of things we need to update. So sorry, this is what I was sharing before. So can you see that now?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you click, everybody has access to these clear impact dashboards that we have. So if, there's pluses and minuses, just like other software you might be used to. But yeah, you can drill down and see what indicator and how it's trending. And then sometimes we have story behind the curve, and you can get a little bit more information on how we compared to the state. So just a little bit of dive like that. I'm sharing some highlights with you all, but also want to make sure that people have access to the data themselves if they want to look at it. I also did share, and I'll do this again. I do have these in a, notice I keep selecting the wrong one. Like I said, as a live link in the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to do that. Also, the actual YRBS report for the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union is also here if you want to actually look at the entire report, which includes all the indicators for the high school and the middle school. But hopefully that dashboard won't or will not make you have to do that because you only get that 1 year at a time. Yeah, and then this is my email. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to call me. Happy to share whatever's useful. And we're very, very grateful for Christine's engagement and participation. Christine is on our community health committee of our board of trustees at Mount Ascutney, and it's been a great partnership to bring some really needed resources to the school community. So we're grateful. I don't know how I did on time. Sorry.
You're
This
right.
is Nancy, and I have a question. Do you do this survey every year? So is there one for 2022 and one for 2023?
It's every 2 years.
It's every.
Yep, it's every 2 years. I believe that the 2023 is, I believe the CDC is putting it back on the regular schedule. So I believe the students are either took it this spring. Does anybody know?
Hey, didn't they take it this
They took it
spring?
this spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're back on the regular schedule. Yep.
And does it just take a huge amount of time to get the results? Since
This time.
We don't know why it took so, it's done by the CDC, so they released, I think they released national data. I was checking the Vermont CDC results website like at least every week, if not every few days, but they released the national data like I want to say late last summer or early last fall, but then it took them forever to drill down to states, and then
yeah, so we always know where we were, but we don't know where we are.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. And that's why we, work so closely, in planning prevention strategies and working closely with our schools and staying in touch, because, that's really where it's at. But the data does help point us in a direction, like walking away from this data now, knowing that we really need to focus on those, on the female population, really assessing what programming do we have for females? Do we have safe, allied spaces for LGBTQ students? How are we addressing bullying or incivility around differences? I think that those are key. It really does give you a little bit of a compass. A lot of these societal issues don't change a whole lot in 2 years. So, but it does give us a place to look. So, I would add that especially at the state level, most of the Department of Health employees that is their job to deal with this data were deployed to COVID. And so they all were given different jobs. And so they just put their regular jobs down and they had to help. So that was a huge contributing factor to the delay in the results, is people having to come back and reorient and catch up. So, but they do anticipate being more on track. Usually the students take the survey in the fall. It still is long. They take the survey in the spring. The results are back from CDC in the late fall, and we usually have the results in the following, spring-ish, May, April. So there's still a year delay even when things are going well.
Thank you so much, Melanie. This has been really, really eye-opening and useful. Thank you for presenting with us. And I'm really looking forward to kind of going granular.
That's right. I'll send the presentation to Christine and she can send it out to all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.
Great. Take care.
Do you want me to share the presentation?
She might be Sheehan's mother.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome back and happy August as we dig deep into back to school mode. So a lot of our administrative report tonight will be focused on looking ahead to the school year upcoming here and our back to school workings and some things we're really excited about for the upcoming school year. Jen is not here tonight. I'll be doing a little bit of the ABS slide, but any questions you have for Jen I'm sure she can answer. She's,
Oh, do you have a slideshow too?
yeah, it's right here. I'll start with K-5. We do have some new members coming on board. We're exceptionally excited about adding some really great folks to the dream team here at Windsor. These were folks we would have brought to you last spring and early summer as we were in the midst of hiring season. But just to review, we have Stephanie Murray, who many of you met downstairs, coming in at first grade. Stephanie is new to Windsor, but not a new teacher by any stretch. She was most recently at Heartland, and really excited to have her on board. We also have Maddie Vodila. Maddie will be joining us in the pre-K 8 art room. Maddie's also an experienced art educator, new to Windsor, but not new to being an art teacher. We have 2 new teachers in 4th grade. We have Jade Ennis. Jade has been with the SU for some time now as a social emotional interventionist and support staff member. And we also have Jess Murray. Jess Murray is coming to us from Castleton and will be the other half of the 4th grade duo. I'm very excited to have her on board. I also mentioned this to a few folks upstairs, but this year we will also have a 3rd, 5th grade classroom. As you know, our incoming 5th grade is a bubble class. It's a really big class. We had that bubble class teacher position in the budget last year. We weren't able to fill it. We had an amazing team that made it work last year, but very happy to have that class split into some smaller groups for this year. So there'll be 3 5th grade classrooms this coming year.
How many students in?
It's 44 students in 5th grade total, so break that up roughly 15, 16 apiece. They're slightly different numbers, but that's the rough numbers. Our new incoming 5th grade teacher is Sadie Mayfield, and we're really excited to have her on board. Family engagement is a large priority of ours this year, tied to our WIGs, our wildly important goals for Leader and Me this year. One of the things that we've talked a lot about, and we started this a little bit last year, were themed nights around community engagement. So we have our community meals, and try to get as many families in the building to connect with the team as possible around certain themes. So last year we did a literacy night. This year we're hoping to do another literacy night, a night on mathematics, and other nights that highlight our curriculum programs and programmatic offerings to bring folks in and show them a little bit more of the magic that happens here. That being said, this year we're adding a new preschool open house. Preschool is in small students, but before school starting. Open house on 8/28 with a barbecue here. And that will be an informal way for families to get to meet their teachers before the first day of school, see classrooms, have some food, and get a proper kickoff to the school here. We're excited about that. We will still have our regular October open house, which is the more formal one once we're 5-6 weeks into the school year. So I mentioned this to a few folks downstairs, and I think you got to look at it, but the classroom far on the State Street side has the 3 new rooms in it. That's our interventionist suite. We've added quite a bit of bandwidth to our intervention instructional coaching bench this year. We're really excited to have 3 positions there. Amber Bennett will be interventionist / instructional coach for K2. Jesse Taft, formerly our 4th grade teacher, will be interventionist / instructional coach for 3-5 ELA. And Mike Doogie will be our instructional coach / ELA interventionist for 3-5 mathematics. I neglected to talk about Mike before. Mike is also a new hire in that position. Mike comes to us from White River School, where he was 4th grade and math teacher there for about 25 years.
In the middle school, our new team members are Jennifer Thompson, who will be joining our team, replacing Zach Husband in writing, ELA, and social studies. She also has been a part of the Summer Academy and has already gotten to know a lot of our teammates and students. So we're excited that Jen had that experience. We are also adding a new teacher to the profession, Mrs. Mary Bean, and Mary will be our 6th grade math and science teacher on the team. And we were able to fill our middle school counselor position for the first time. So we are also inviting and having Mary Richter. Mary Bean is M-A-R-Y, Mary Richter is M-E-R-R-Y, and she is our school counselor for the middle level. We also have 2 new teachers in our ACE program, Amanda Clark and Christian Avard, and they will be spearheading our ACE classrooms. And Ms. Ahern has hired multiple support staff, and I cannot verify all of them at this moment, but at our next meeting, I'll make sure we have all the names of our new staff. I believe she's still doing some hiring. Yes,
Could you please remind us what ACE stands for?
Academic Community Excellence.
Thank you.
And our team planning, our middle school team had a summer gathering so that we can include our 3 new teachers on the middle school side of the hallway, which is Mary and Mary and Jen. And so we did some basic get ready for school planning. One of those planning pieces includes a lot of our Leader in Need initiatives. As Sergio said, some family engagement. The team is going to plan some working the habits, the 7 habits, into their weekly newsletters. We also had to start some of the planning for Farm and Wilderness because it sneaks up on us very early in the school year as a kind of a activity, trip, bonding teachers and students, and that's happening on September 14th and 15th. So we've already started some of the planning for that as well. The other thing I just wanted to add is that other new learning that happened this summer and getting ready for the year is that Sergio and I are a part of the Waddington Leadership Program, Cohort 14. So we did some summer work in Greensboro and we'll spend some time this school year cohort preparing for the BPA's Leadership Academy that we are in this year. And carrying a lot of that learning over to our team as well.
Hi.
Hi.
I believe one of our new team members is online. She's probably gonna be mad at me right now, but our new nurse is Katie Burke.
Oh, good.
Also an experienced nurse coming from Wisconsin and a community member and a parent. And we're very happy to have her. In theater, we have Lauren Warner. She's very enthusiastic, sending emails already that she wants to hit the non-theater kids and is thinking about a playwriting class in addition to the standard classes. In music, we welcome Brian Staffman, who's gonna be a big part. I'll just do this part now. As you see later down the line, I have a drum line on there. So we have kind of had in the back of our head for years, we need to get the music department back going. We need to get the music department back going. I get a lot of feedback on that when you live and work in the community, particularly around parade time. So I said this year we're bringing back a drum line. Talk to Brian. In addition to Brian, we're gonna hire a parent coach who experiences this. We sent out an interest survey. We have 9 kids signed up, and we're gonna be in those parades. And then I think I can retire. Next, we have Maddie Murphy, who's our new counselor, who actually, when we're going over the survey, I thought of her because we had done a lot of interviews for this counselor position. I let Jessica take the lead. She has to do the most, the working with this person the most. Pretty much I had the same feeling after every interview as she did. When I walked into this one, I was like, please let Jessica say this is the person. And she did. And why I wanted Maddie to come work here so desperately is because she talked about how proactive she is in groups. And I have just been going over all the behavior data, and it's very skewed whether you went here from kindergarten or whether you came in at a different time. It's very unbalanced. And one of the things Maddie said in her interview is I work in a school that has a lot of transition students, which we do because we live on the border with Claremont, and kids coming in at different ages. And she said, and I do groups for those students when they come in so that they know the culture and the expectations. And I think that's going to be really helpful to us. Next, we have our SAP, which we just talked about, and her name is Rachel Lewis, and she's lovely. There's no other way to describe her. She is experienced. She's also a licensed clinician. She's very clear. She doesn't want to be known as the drug lady. And she's very clear, which is very odd for a contracted service provider to say, give me lunch duties, give them to me 5 days a week if you have to. We never hear that from contract service. We hear that so much of. So excited to have her here. We have, as we talked about maybe 2 meetings ago, we're struggling to find the art teachers. We asked if we could use the money for the SAP and for planning room. In terms of things we do get feedback. Yes. You said art teacher. Oh, I'm gonna say planning room, sorry.
You did say planning room, so that you took it from the art teacher, health teacher.
Health, yes, sorry.
That's okay.
So we have hired a planning room attendant. We get a lot of feedback that you are doing great with trauma responses. You're doing great with repairs to relationships. You are doing great at making this a safe space, but you're not doing great at is in addition to the repair, providing a consequence. It's not clear what they are. So the addition of this planning room, we're hoping will now meet all of our needs. We have the hub, which will be Dave Keeney moving into there. So that'll be for academic support. Then we have the planning room, which will be for behavioral support. And then we have 1 full-time and 1 part-time SEI, which will be for emotional support. So we have kind of the 3 facets that we need. It's worked really hard with Brittany and Alina this summer to kind of lay out the protocol for behavior. So what happens, that's going to be made public at some point when it's finished. So we're really feeling good about that. Christy Keeney, I'll be right back. Christy Keeney has moved from elementary art to high school art. I think I got everybody.
Thanks.
Question?
It's a new room, but is planning room, I'm not really sure I understand the name.
Oh, it's a plan to be successful in your classroom. But full disclosure, we want to keep kids in school, right?
Yeah.
When they get in trouble for vaping, we have all the pieces now. When they get in trouble for vaping, I have the option to tie up my staff that I don't have, to tie up my own day, that is a terrible idea, or to send them on out of school suspension to go home and vape.
Right.
Now, because I have these 2 new players, I can say for vaping, for the first offense, you do 4 days in school suspension, you can do 2 days in school suspension, and 2 sessions with our SAP.
That is great.
It was a team effort.
Excellent, excellent. That's really good.
Plan also comes from our collaborative problem solving and like doing the reflection and doing the plan B. How do you make your repair? Who do you need to talk to about this?
That's great.
That's also part of a planning room
Yeah,
concept.
it gives us the option to keep kids in school
Good,
while fixing,
good.
helping work to solve the problem.
That's wonderful.
I hope so. We are going back to our freshman welcome the first day in the afternoon. And I want to give a shout out to Jess, who did a really good job last spring of getting students in the building prior to even registering, to see it, to get to know it, to shadow days, then full visit days. She did a really, really nice job. Temporary parking solutions. So if at any point this year, anyone asked me if I wanted to talk about anything, I said, yes, parking, but nobody had a solution. So this is another kind of everyone put their heads together. There's a couple problems. One, school staff everywhere have exploded, right? We have additional people working in this building. And for some reason, compared to when I was in high school, lots of kids have cars. And then we just have the general population, how many people are here, and the front parking lot is not working. We all know that. Anyone who's been here for drop off or pickup knows that it's not good and it's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're removing all parking from up there for the staff. So that's gonna put all the staff down below. We only have 136 spots, right? So now it's gonna be, this is breaking news, Hudson, so you can deal with this tonight. So now it's gonna be a senior privilege to park on campus. And we're waiting for a contract from the local church, which is right across the footbridge. And all of the underclassmen will park at St. Francis Church
Okay.
parking lot. They will walk across the footbridge and come to class. We're hoping that one, fixes the safety up top here. Two, when your car's not parked on campus, that gives you a lot less chances to raise your hand and say, oh, I left my headphones in my car. Oh, I left my lunch in my car. Oh, I did this in my car, because you're not going there. We get it. We're hoping it's gonna be positive all around, but we're also hoping it's a temporary solution while we look for a long-term one.
Is top parking being kept for anything at all?
Well, one, it's gonna be cleared out so that there's more room to go around, but when guests come here, there's nowhere for them to park.
But what if, oh, a high school senior broke their leg?
So you know me. High school senior broke their leg. What do you think the answer is
They're
gonna
gonna park up top?
be? Yes,
Okay.
And the handicap
do
spot.
not break your leg.
Handicap parking
Yeah, we
visitors.
will drive anyway, so.
Did you mention Lighthouse?
I did not, because the Lighthouse team met today, they're meeting again tomorrow. And Mark was very clear to me that I was to keep my mouth shut and let them lead. And then I had a crisis anyway, so it worked out well, so Hudson can fill us in on the Lighthouse team.
It was interesting. But we're laying the ground of what to do for the next school year. It's a work in progress.
What does that mean?
The lighthouse.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what are you planning? What area are you planning? And what does that look like? What do you mean?
So basically.
Everybody's planning at the moment.
Yeah. Basically, we're a team of students that, we're working, we divide up into curriculum, environment, what's the other one? Culture. And we advise administration on those issues in the school.
Okay. So do you, when you say you're planning, are you planning activities or are you planning directions to look at? Or what kinds of things are you planning?
Basically, these 2 days are just leading up to the school year. And right now, we're trying to map out the first 6 to 8 weeks of what the school year is gonna look like, and then we'll go from there of what. It's everything.
And what's the difference between the Lighthouse team and the student council? Are they part of each other? Do they work together?
So, student council does mostly winter carnival and events. Lighthouse team, you get credit, I believe it's a half credit, and, it's not just kids from student council.
I'm working on the 7 habits and improving school culture.
Okay,
Leader me.
okay, I got it. Thank you.
Good job, Hudson.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't mean to grill you. Now I know.
Okay, I'm gonna advance to the next slide. All right.
I'll just read Jennifer's slide. I will probably not be able to answer any questions about it, but I'm sure when Jennifer returns, she certainly can. Staff shout out there, Sarah Day in the bottom left-hand corner, instrumental in our World Story Exchange collaboration, getting our school clean this summer. Big impact there for sure. The World Story Exchange collaboration update, the 50 People of West Windsor book is in final stages. So
It's actually out as of Saturday.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, update to the update.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll hear more about that soon. I do know also that they've shuffled around a lot in Albert Bridge School. So I think using old spaces in new ways. Perhaps some different staff folks in different spaces, but they were cleaning out. I know when I stopped by in the middle of the summer, they were busy scrubbing away, so it should look like a couple of different ABS. So I'm sure you'll have more from Jen in the next go around.
All right, I have 2 slides to present tonight.
the first one already happened, and it was quite successful. Our summer academy ran for 4 weeks. We serviced 112 students from all of our schools, and we had an average daily attendance of 90 kids per day, which is pretty awesome. And it ran the smoothest this year, and it has in previous years. Ran like clockwork. It was pretty phenomenal, and it was fun, and the kids learned. We had staff. One of my favorite parts is seeing the staff from across the SU working together, getting to know each other, collaborating together. And we had 30 full-time equivalent staff members. It's a higher number than last year due to student needs, but kudos to Katie. She's now on vacation. She gets a little break. She leads Summer Academy, and we do have ESSER funds through September of 24, so we'll plan to run it again this coming summer, and then we would like to continue it, and we're going to figure out funding. So,
Great.
very, very successful program. You heard about all the new staff that are coming to our awesome dynamic team. And I wanted to just update you on, we spent a lot of time at the central office really honing in on onboarding, because we know for more successful in our onboarding, we might keep more staff. So we have a whole flow chart of who does what. We onboarded roughly 50 staff members this year. And what we did differently is we invited, well, not we, Brittany and Tina, to be honest, set up Wednesdays. They did sessions, 2 sessions, and staff could sign up and come in, get their laptops, get personalized instruction on how to get into frontline, how to do the essential trainings that they need to do to bring them up to speed with what they need to know to be part of our SU. So that was really fantastic. It's gone well. Another thing that we've done for our new staff is created a Google Classroom. And so over the summer, one of their tasks is to go in. We had Brittany made us all do welcome videos and assignments. And then when they get to the end of the Google Classroom, there's a link to a website for new staff. And we're trying to really make sure there are resources for our new staff, whichever community they live in. Just some practical things like where you can get your hair cut, where the churches are, those types of things to really support our new staff. So we're going to give them exit tickets on the process to see what they think and give us some feedback for improvement for next year. But we're feeling like we have a system in place, which was lacking, and feel really good about that. So
I've got a question.
Yeah.
When you set up new teachers with, new teachers with mentors,
Yes.
do you set them up with mentors with like teaching experience?
We try to match them, like in their content area, or if they're a related arts teacher or a school counselor, we try to match them with a similar mentor. We do not have enough mentors. I was talking to Angie today. We've got mentors who are mentoring 3 and 4 people, which is a lot. So we really need to bring in more mentors.
It's a trained
mentors.
program, so we
Yeah.
don't have a lot of trained people. So if we have like a lot of new elementary teachers, but most of our people who are trained are high school teachers, they're mentoring elementary teachers, and they might feel a little distant from that person, but luckily for us, our mentors are excellent, and they have mentored people of all different grade levels and maybe a subject area close to them. Right now, I know our new elementary teacher, our new 6th grade teacher, math science, Mary Bean, she's being mentored by a high school math teacher.
And we do,
Is it a
it is a
stipend?
stipended position. We have mentors, full mentors and mentor guides. So if you're an experienced teacher and you don't need as much support, there are levels up. If you're under 5 years, I think it is, you have to have a full mentor. But we do, I know Julie Allward is mentoring our new theater teacher. So we do pull from retired teachers as well. So,
Yeah. And like specialty areas like the arts or a guidance counselor, school counselor, those sometimes need a guide who might not be a high school math teacher, sorry.
So yeah, but we do need more mentors, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that concludes our administrative report. Stop sharing.
Okay, thank you for that, everybody. I hope you had a nice July off.
It's like, it's good.
Okay, we're wrestling. Okay, we're
5 whole days without rain.
5 whole days
all
without
summer.
Feels like
been
more than I
counting.
remember, but I'm sure. Sure.
Let's see, okay. So now we are at items for discussion followed by emotions. Motions, not emotions. Okay. I'm gonna need you to guide me through, where we got at the last meeting regarding the resolution. Did you discuss the resolution?
I don't believe we did because we were missing you, Rebecca.
Okay,
We tabled it.
We did, okay.
okay. And now we're missing Megan, but I know how she feels about it already. So, does anybody have the resolution handy so we can put it up on the screen?
I'm not logged in, but
Hudson?
I might once in 30 seconds.
Nobody's doing it. But yeah, same. I mean, not exactly.
in the portal.
Yeah. Should be in the 7 cent, yeah.
Should be.
It's in the, I got it.
Okay, I think you have to make those folders, right?
System preferences is being pain. I can email you the link though. I just sent you the link to it.
To me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
There it is.
Can you please get that? Thank you. Okay.
All right.
So you want?
Yeah.
So who has, oh, this is on,
It's on the portal. Who has the, what's that?
Word. This is a Word document.
Yeah.
Okay. Is an error. One. Is an errant space in the wrong place. Be it further resolved, and then number 1, support and defend educators' use. There should be no space after educators, and there should be a space before use. I know that's just a typo, but. Or maybe someone already.
I think it's because there's a space after the apostrophe.
Yeah. It's an apostrophe S on educators.
Right.
And
No,
it's just-
maybe I'm looking at a different copy because that looks correct and mine doesn't.
Oh.
So.
Maybe someone already corrected.
Yeah, probably someone already corrected it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It is wrong, of course.
Hmm?
It is wrong, of course.
Yes, thank you for helping me with my sanity check.
Sanity checks are important.
Yes.
Would you mind continuing? Thank you.
Read it for me.
Okay. So we did discuss this at our June meeting. Does anybody else have any other changes that they'd like to add?
I mean, thanks again for editing this down from the, 30-page template that it came from. But I think that this in its current form, and I've seen this before, but I appreciate the reminder here. But no, I think that it's concise. It says what we wanted to say, and it's a pretty strong demonstration of support for our faculty here. So I think it's good.
Hudson, got any thoughts?
I'm all for it. We gotta support our teachers.
Rebecca?
I think it not only supports our faculty, I think it supports our students and our community and a community that has continued to approve our budgets over and over and over again. And I think what they're saying is we want to continue to support our teachers and faculty, and this is our way of saying that we want you to continue to do what you're doing. So I think it's an excellent document. I think it should be public. I think it should be placed in places where not only where students and community members are able to read it and see it.
Thank you. Would you mind filling in the day
We'll fill that in.
and whatnot?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna be really picky again.
Okay.
Because I just finished a 60-page capstone, so, and drilled into all my reading is consistency. Above, these have space
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
So either take the space out of the ones above, or,
Respect.
Sorry about that, Bill.
no, it's fine. No need to apologize. It's,
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll take a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved, Davis?
second.
So, Nancy, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Rebecca, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I am an aye. So, the resolution has been adopted.
Yes.
It's only taken us like 9 months to get it done, but, okay.
It was quite the undertaking. And
It
so-
was quite the undertaking, and I just wanted to make sure that we got it done before the start of the school year, so that's, and the principals here, if you wouldn't mind sharing with your, with the teachers, the resolution, that would really,
Happy to.
because,
The final version's on the portal.
what's that?
The final version's on the portal, if you want to share.
Christine, would you mind sharing with principals?
Yeah, I'm making it's a PDF, so I'm gonna make a Google Doc and share it.
And could you also share it with Jennifer?
I couldn't find it.
What's that?
I couldn't find it on the folder. I kind of assumed that would be in the Montesquieu School District folder.
That's just in the archive, right? Is that
Yeah.
weird?
Previous years?
And then it's a MASD resolution template, I think.
I never tried to do it before.
But why would it be in previous years? Wouldn't that be for previous?
Don't look at me.
We started
Oh, I'm not
talking
looking
about
at
it
you.
in
I'm just-
FY20.
You're in front of me, Elizabeth. My neck hurts, so I'm
It
sorry.
was, because it came up last year.
Yeah, it came up in a
Oh, okay.
previous fiscal year.
But we'll move it forward and get it on the website.
Okay, we are now at 7:51.
Okay.
Annual goals and how we measure progress.
I don't remember what we came up with.
Huh?
I think we came up with several goals. But I don't,
Last time?
yeah, I thought we had, or were those the SU goals?
Those were the SU goals we
Yeah.
were speaking about. And this name may not be related, but I listened to a wonderful article talking about this company who would spend a lot of time with goals. And then once they switched by using the word goals and using the word impact, to write the goals. How are we going to impact? And I think the guy said it's a big change in focus when we start thinking about it that way. I just found it fascinating. How are we as a board going to impact the education and students and staff of this district?
That's a good question.
I feel that one of our goals was to maintain staff. And I think what you're doing with the mentoring is impacting that, will help us keep people as they come.
Yeah, there has been some significant transition this year. Not necessarily that we've lost staff just from them going someplace else, but I think the biggest factor is gonna be retire.
Yes,
It's just a reality of demographics within Vermont schools in particular. Besides, you've been creative in stealing a couple really wonderful Hartford teachers, so I congratulate you. on that.
Well, Hartford stole right back.
Huh?
Hartford has stolen right back.
Exactly, so I'm not begrudging you your success this year. I'm congratulating you for your success. Mike in particular is a wonderful resource. So, but yeah, I think you're right, that was one of the areas that we really wanted to focus on, SU-wide and the Scutney school district. Be able to keep staff, and we've had our failures.
Do
We've
we
had some successes.
recruit straight out of school? Or do we just go by school strength?
We mostly use school spread.
It's a great question. It's one of the things we heard about at our VPA conference, about more active recruiting all year long.
Because I'm sure that I've told you this story, Christine, but just so you know, about 8 years ago, we were having trouble at our supervisory union hiring teachers and all kinds of different people. And so, and I have a friend who is principal at a remarkably small school in San Francisco. It's actually smaller than Windsor High School. It's a high school. And he went to a program that was set up at NYU for graduating teachers. And it was for, because of San Francisco, it was for urban schools to come and recruit teachers right out of school. And so I was like, we need teachers too. And so I contacted the people who ran that program, and they said they would be glad to do a Vermont-specific recruiting fair for their teachers.
Good.
So not that you have to, but maybe at the VPA or so. I went back to
VPA
the,
talked about it being in all of Vermont, and
Yeah.
it was specifically, we were talking about diversity in hiring. But a lot of the schools from all over Vermont were sharing that we've gone years with 0 applicants in many positions. I believe that not only School Spring, but I think Tina has used Indeed. Sometimes
It's expensive.
but they talked about just, and not only school to school individually, but as the VPA of Vermont, kind of attending some job fairs, like maybe in Boston and different parts
Yeah.
of New England, and getting out there as a place where a lot of our schools in Vermont can go to one fair together as a team.
so when this happened 8 or so years ago, I then sent a letter to the VSA and the Vermont School Superintendent's Association and the Vermont Principals Association, introducing their leaders to this person at NYU who was willing to do a rural schools job fair. And VSA and VPA were not interested at all. And they said, well, you can go. I was like, well, I'm just putting it out there. So,
Maybe you're interested now.
I think they're
Yeah,
interested in
right,
that.
so.
Yeah.
Just
One
for
issue,
whatever it's
Yeah.
worth.
Yeah, that's great.
one issue that I'm hoping to address is what, the salary differential.
Oh,
Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union has the greatest salary differential from the top to the bottom of any of the school districts that I've researched. It's only 100%.
Wow. Wow.
And it has to do with the contract language that makes it a percentile step throughout the contract. So that's the first 3 meetings we have is to talk about what each group has, the problem we would like to address. And that's one that I'm gonna bring quite forward.
Rebecca, are you with us? Yes. I could have sworn that you and I have talked about a goal that you wanted to put forward for our board for this year.
Well, I just wanted to comment on the teacher shortage. And I know that Tina had worked on and is working on growing your own. I continue to hear, and it's not only in Vermont, but we will continue to be facing teacher shortages. And it's going to get worse. So I think I think it's important for us to really look at maybe particular programs that we have some control over, and growing your own may be one of the ways that we can have some direct control. Housing has become an issue, so you can, you can get teachers that may be interested in teaching here, but they're then going to need to deal with the whole issue of housing and reasonable, affordable housing. So I think that, that's really important. I know that Windsor is in the midst of building certain units. And I think that maybe even having a conversation with Windsor about the possibility of making available a couple of those units for staff to come into the community, that can be offered to new teachers. It's something out of the box, but I think we're going to have to start thinking out of the box on how to bring in folks and house them and support them. As far as goals that I think, at least for me, it's really important, is that community engagement. It's that how do we maintain an ongoing connection with our community, parents, community members in this community that are not that do not have children in the schools, but are very concerned about what is going on in the schools. I know that one effort that we're involved in is serving at the food dinners, the Windsor dinners, but looking at ways to connect with the community, to get out there and see them, talk with them, just to know them and develop deeper relationships with them.
So a couple of things as far as that is concerned. I think it's really important that we all try to attend all of the back to school events. If you can make it to back to school events, please go, and you too. Please attend them in both towns and represent the school board and try to answer questions about what we actually do. Yeah.
Could we possibly just get a list of all those, shot to our email, just so we can pop
Or
it down?
even,
That would be great.
whatever goes into my calendar is what I pay attention to. But yeah, I'd like to say I made an effort to go to as many graduations as I could. And getting a flavor of the schools, different schools, it was just an amazing sort of eye-opener.
Yeah.
Not so much an eye-opener, but it was an amazing experience. Next year, I definitely will have to go to Heartland, but
In your calendar, that's where we prefer.
yes.
Do you want, Scotney schools and the other schools?
I would, that would be great, thank you.
I think they're all on the same night.
Which is probably, yeah.
I don't want all of the
You just
schools.
want outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do want both schools.
Are you able to add that to me as well?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So it's further down on the list, but hopefully, I think Davis mentioned it last time, but
Threw in a plug at the last meeting.
one of my thoughts was, and I've talked with Kate about this, or maybe it was Colleen. I know Colleen, I may have talked to both of you about it, but anyway, just having an overall picnic at Mount Ascutney that does not have an agenda. It is just to hang for both towns to be in the same place at the same time. We are the Mount Ascutney School District, so it sort of makes sense to do it at Mount Ascutney if we can get the Ascutney Outdoors building, and not have an agenda and just have it, have some activities that we can share together that are not tug of war. and, just enjoy each other's company. Partly potluck with some, I don't know what food, but what do you guys think about that?
It just in terms of a great place, that building is wonderful because it has a kitchen attached, and I've done red apron things there for weddings, for
Mhm.
very big groups. And it's nice, people can come right through with tables like this to serve. It's really, and it's very doable.
Is that something that we could get, like, ask people to bring some things to supplement, the grilling kind of? I'm thinking of keeping it really simple, like hot dogs, hamburgers, and
And simple salads.
simple salads.
Yeah,
We're having an event later this week where we're having a stone soup salad, meaning we're gonna have a big bowl and everybody's gonna bring a salad ingredient, because it's great. Great time of
there's
year for
all
that.
kinds of, different kinds of salads and also desserts.
Yeah.
And you can do a great potluck like that.
I would, I would man the grill and grill some hot dogs and hamburgers, but I don't know how to get grills up there. The little,
Yeah, that's.
small logistical stuff. Do you know whether they have that sort of stuff?
I don't.
I can imagine they would.
Do they have girls at the fairground?
They do?
Why can't it?
By the covered pavilion.
Yes, thank you.
The playground in the back there.
Okay.
Oh, you know where I think they have grills at Scutney? Behind the pond, up along the tree line where the old ski school was. I think they have some grills up there behind the hotel.
Or those
Oh.
hotels.
Where the hut
Oh,
was?
they're probably the hotels, yes,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You're right, Bill, because they're not at Scutney.
The only event that I can remember going to Scotty Outdoors, it was all catering brought in everything. I didn't see any girls that lived there. So
Yeah, I
we
didn't
would
see-
probably have to,
Yeah.
we'd probably
When we
have
do
to.
a senior barbecue here, they just throw their girls in the back of the truck. We get it done.
Okay. Well, I mean, do you think that's a good idea? Should
I
I try
think it's
to
a great
get
idea,
get it
because this
together
is, and we can serve as Rebecca would like us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
For your information, Jen and Sergio and Kate and I have already organized the same thing that you're talking about for the staff. For like a informal
Right.
night, just to get to meet new
Yeah.
teachers, new teammates.
And that's what, Labor Day weekend? Is that right? Or is
No,
that
we're doing it
before
on the 22nd. of
So I was
August,
thinking,
Next week.
right, I think I've talked to Jennifer about that. I was thinking more the
Community. What were you
after
saying?
school began, so that we don't, because I know there's diminishing returns on participation and stuff like that.
And you're saying for the community, for both towns
Yeah.
to come to.
Yeah.
Do you think that the, PTOs would take this on?
The PTOs at both schools?
Organize it. No.
That's a great idea to maybe get them involved. That would be a wonderful, I mean, we can extend the invitation and see if that's something that they would be interested in working alongside of us with.
But my one concern about that is that I don't want it to be a recruiting event, because it's not about recruiting anybody to do anything. It's about relaxing and enjoying each other's company.
And you didn't want it just as Scutney, Brownsville, or Windsor. We want everyone.
Right.
Maybe we stick it to being the board just for the sake of it being not a recruiting event.
So there's gonna be a lot of logistical planning involved and, an invitation and. Sign up for what people are gonna bring and grills and who's doing what, so it would be great to have some help, especially at the beginning of the year. People are kind of busy.
When do the back to school nights occur? They in
August
September
28th.
or?
August 28th.
August 28th.
Monday before school starts.
Yeah. And there's a.
No, I mean would they come to meet the teachers and you have to talk about the grades and stuff? It's
Like
after school.
the literacy night or the.
Yeah.
I mean, those will be throughout the year. The next one of those is October 12th, I want to say. I don't know.
When you come to meet the teachers and you're not having a conference, but, yeah.
And
Okay.
I also spoke with Chief Frank about being there, and she's all about it.
Good.
And I talked with Ryan Palmer because I thought it was before I found out that he's no longer the chair of the select board, but he was also all about it. So, ideally, we could get both of our select boards also to attend. So I think that would be healthy. So,
Yeah, having no idea how many people would come, it's really,
yeah,
it's mind-boggling how much we might need, but
Right, and my family has done catering for years, and, you know, my participation was always the barbecue. My record is 890 pounds of chicken in one day
nice.
by myself.
Well, you won't need to do anything like that.
It's
Wow.
specialized chicken, specialized system. But, you know, to feed 2,500 people.
We're not gonna have 2,500 people.
Well, I know that, but,
I hope not.
but then
Good attendance.
Potential.
that's a possibility.
Potential.
That'd be great.
Then we should do it on Holy Day.
Right, yeah, right. Let's see. So around the, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah, we want to find a time and kind of go from there. I think we should probably set a date sooner than later.
Yeah, what about Saturday, September 16th? Or Sunday, September 17th?
I like the idea of doing it on a Sunday
Uh-huh,
because of sports.
anybody
No.
have feelings about that day?
I think that sounds good.
What was the date again?
Sunday, September 17th.
I will be here, but that's okay. Might get that sport.
Yeah, I will do my very best to be there. I have some minor surgery 2 days before, so like, I may not be super helpful, but I can probably be there.
Okay.
It's amazing how minor surgery can be very major. I had arm surgery once, and then I had parent conference meeting the next day, and I was planning on going, you know. My arm would be slim.
Yeah, so tentative and hopeful, yes, on the 17th for me.
Okay, I'd say the week before, but I also will be out of town that week. But y'all can do it without me.
I would hesitate just from a planning perspective to do anything that gives us less than a month.
I agree.
Because this is non-trivial. And if we go back, 17th puts us at just about a month. If we go back a weekend, that's less than a month. And I don't feel super confident about, I know we're all intelligent, resourceful people and we probably could pull it together, but I get queasy with stuff like this when it's kind of undefined and we're crushing a timeline. So I would say 17th at the earliest.
What about homecoming weekend? I'm trying to think what that homecoming schedule looks like. So Friday night there's a game, Saturday there's usually 2 games, and then the kids' homecoming dance is that night.
Cool.
But like that Sunday afternoon might be a great idea.
That's actually really,
When is that?
Not till October. First weekend or second weekend in October. I don't know why it's late, but it is.
Kind of around stone soup season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna make it a soup potluck.
Is there, any plans for like?
We couldn't have it outside then, is the only thing. Or it would be more iffy outside.
Yeah.
And also at Albert Bridge, I mean,
If you're outside any day this summer.
this is true.
Well, Scotty Outdoors has the,
Indoor
the building
facility,
there,
yeah.
yeah, so
The only thing is that,
packed in there like sardines.
you don't, yeah.
yeah,
Could do the exchange maybe. But then you have to have your cooking space kind of set up outside there. And I'll actually, they may be working on it by then too, so forget I said that.
never mind.
Construction zone.
let's leave it right now for at the 17th.
Tentatively 17th?
And we'd also have to contact the Scotty Outdoors
Yeah.
to see.
I know, but I wanted to make sure that we agreed in principle before asking Escutney Outdoors whether that day was available. It could be that they can't do it that day.
Right.
But I think it would.
Is there good parking with Escutney Outdoors?
Yes,
Okay, because I was, all right.
it has
Because
a
they
huge
use-
parking lot.
Yeah, for skiing, it was massive.
And for the 4th of July, we had like 1,400 people come to the 4th of July and they all found parking spots.
Yeah. We better not have 1,400 people come, although Bill could serve them all.
And see, technically,
Chicken.
this is probably midday, right? We're thinking midday on a Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, that would be much, yeah.
I'm just
at least
blocking
that's-
off time.
That'd be like 3 to 5 or 4 to 6 or,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Be pretty easy for me to pull off.
What
Couple hundred
Somebody
pounds.
check that, it's real.
We can do the potluck bit. What about the meat? Would that come out of the school budget? Where did we get the hamburgers and hot dogs?
The hot dogs,
You could ask everybody to bring their own meat and a side,
Ah,
which.
and they could grill? I don't know. You don't want people lining up at grills.
No, they bring their own stuff and their own multiple grills, so they can still grill their own, unless you wanna do it.
Okay.
I like the idea of us putting it on,
You like the idea, what was that?
like of us putting it on. And provide, like,
So when looking at meat, hot dogs are the highest per pound expense, but the least labor. Chicken is thighs and legs are the lowest expense. Hamburger's pretty high and quite labor intensive. So
Chicken can get really iffy. Could just be
not
dry.
if you've got Bill at the
I was gonna
house.
say, not with Bill.
my chicken is wonderful.
Are they thighs and legs?
And to put it in perspective, 890 pounds from frozen in the morning to sort
Nice.
I didn't know you could. I'm just so impressed.
I used to do barbecuing, hired out, but eventually I priced myself out of a job on purpose, so.
So do we think, are there any other logistics we need to talk about tonight, or do we feel like we're in a good spot to?
I'll, because we can, email back and forth about
Yeah.
logistical stuff.
That's what I was.
I'd be glad to finish that discussion for now, and then, I'll get some details together and.
Because we
How's that
need
sound?
paper goods and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
Plates, napkins, knives, spoons.
So we did sort of leapfrog from annual goals to district picnic, which is totally
Yes.
cool.
Which is a goal.
I just want to, it's a great goal, and I'm glad that we had that conversation. I just want to throw out that as far as my goal or impact I want to make, I think I'm pretty close to where Rebecca's at. I think community engagement in a general sense is good. I think that, and this is a good segue to the only other agenda item we have, but I think just responsiveness generally too, and continuous improvement. And the soapbox that I was going to stand on, I think it's just a good thing to kind of keep it at front of mind as, you know, as things come up, as we look at processes that we engage in, just making sure we're taking a second to do a little plus delta, even if we're not doing it explicitly, and kind of think like, hey, how can we, you know, if we are to do this again, or when we do this again, how can we do it better? And just try to really build that into our practice. You know, be responsive when folks are giving us feedback, be responsive to our own feedback, and just try not to take process for granted, because I think for things to work well, it needs to be a living, breathing, changing thing. So that's my impact that I think we can make on this level.
Okay, and I have a quick question that's totally off this subject, but do we know how the school choice came about this summer? Are there people coming from Windsor and people from West Windsor coming here?
I don't know, and we can't ask Jennifer because she's not here.
Okay.
Do you know whether there are any people from Albert Bridge coming over here? Or from West Windsor coming over here?
We sent out the information, I know that, I think in February, but I don't know.
I haven't heard of any. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll ask
thanks.
her to report on that at our next meeting.
Mhm.
I've heard some rumors of movement, but nothing that I can,
I'm sorry?
I've heard some rumors of so-and-so going here and so-and-so going there.
I know there are two families that have withdrawn from Albert Bridge. I don't know whether that means they're coming here or whether they're homeschooling.
Right.
So,
I know one of those got removed.
uh-huh. Okay. As far as, our board goals, I think, so looking back at last year's goals, one of them was to community engagement. And we tried having a few forums, and I think a couple of them went pretty well, like having that was at the SU level. One of the things was, we provided food, and that was good, but when we had, an agenda added to that, we seemed to have less participation. I was thinking about when, what was that event? Was it just a regular back to school event behind this school where you guys had your skits about,
Collaborative problem solving.
collaborative problem solving?
Yeah, it was just, that was the only agenda item.
Right.
Let the kids do the skits of what collaborative problem solving is and a community dinner. That was it.
That was huge. I mean, that was a great event. Oh, and then you had the band though.
They're they'll do anything to get them in front of a group.
I know, I'm
That's
just kidding.
extra. That was bonus.
Is the faculty band?
Yeah. So I think it would be good for us to have a mix of events where we're just in each other's company and also events that have a,
When we had, at ABS, when they had, musical events and stuff and dinner, they were always wonderfully, attended.
yes, Hudson.
What I think what we could do is, once a quarter, we do our meetings where where we do a community dinner for an hour before, then we have our meeting. Is that something that could get people out?
Could be. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And maybe once a quarter, we could have that be like, we were trying to have, some of the showcases of what the students have been doing, where students coming. Remember last year we had the Farm and Wilderness presentation and then, things like that. We could do that once a quarter at the same time as kind of segueing into the, yes?
My only thought about once a quarter is that if you look at the sum total of meetings that we have throughout the year, that would be what, every third meeting we do that?
Yeah.
I think that might,
So
once a quarter doesn't sound like a lot, but I think for the capacity that we have, that would end up being a lot.
I think you're
I
right.
would say maybe we think about it on.
Once a
Once a
semester.
semester, yeah.
You read my
Yeah.
mind. I think on either side of the school year, maybe we look at like kind of fall, like, the first year, the second year of the school year, right? So we do something in the fall, then we do something in the spring. I think that would probably be more doable.
I think you're probably right. And we don't necessarily have to, plan it now when we're gonna do it. We just have to commit to doing it.
Yep.
Because we're doing this right now. I mean, it could be a nice wrap up of the semester, kids showing up, or the schools showing up, what they've done for the semester, not necessarily at the very end, but, you know, what we've been up to.
And then if you do it in the fall and spring, you could do one time at Windsor, one time at Alma Bridge, and you don't have to worry about any extra outside anything.
That's true.
Just a consideration, I know that we worked hard, this year to get all our community dinners on the books with Craig early, and it's not a small fee to do them. So if it involves food service, they need to know sooner rather than later for planning. So,
Okay.
Yep.
We'll get there.
yeah, no, I think it's great.
If we did one in December and one in May, or May's the hairy month, right? One in December and one in April.
That's probably doable.
We should have had, well, maybe next year. I'm just thinking when we're planning this community dinner, to be intentional, to have one before meeting night, right?
Yeah.
And then have the kids presenting and.
Yeah. That's what we're doing.
One more thought about that.
Yeah.
Since we have our town meeting night where it is usually dinner, does it make sense to do it in like November and March? Because in March, we usually have the town meeting with dinner.
The budget presentation.
Yeah.
Who does the dinner?
Well, we had our practice waffle last year.
Yeah.
Where we had the dinner and we had it in the cafeteria. And now we know, now
Our March
having
meeting,
done
I'm sorry.
that, that's a good point. We now know, what we can do better.
We will not present in the cafeteria.
What's that?
We will not present in the
Why
cafeteria.
not?
Oh,
I think we can make it work well. It's
I-
just, we can't do what we did last year, but I think we can make it work well. What?
It might be a longer conversation.
I think the acoustics are the problem.
the acoustics
But we
are a
didn't have-
problem in sightline?
We didn't have any kind of, we didn't have acoustics. We didn't have,
That was the background noise from the, just like this
Yeah.
right here, I can't hear because this
Fans.
thing's blowing and this thing. And that was the problem of that town meeting.
right,
There was compressors in
right,
the back and that was a hearing
Coolers.
problem and
Yeah.
then, the microphones weren't really.
And there was a
Right,
whiteboard
right.
set up
It was a
here,
little-
but there's a big counter in front of it, so you couldn't,
right.
people sitting behind it couldn't see
There
Yeah,
anything.
but these
wasn't
are
a
all
lot of-
details that we learned from last year that we can work out for this year.
I don't know.
We can't just do it one year, realize what went wrong, and then never try it again.
Oh, I want to do it. I just don't think that's the best sound place. I think sitting down in the theater, dinner and a theater.
Yeah, but we didn't even, I disagree, because, I mean, we can talk about this another
I
time,
was
but
gonna say, this I think is its whole.
the thing that I liked about it was that we get swallowed up in the theater, and as board members, we see 5 people in that giant theater audience space, and we're, it's really disheartening. In the cafeteria, what I liked about it was, while there were some details that didn't work, number one, we didn't even try to provide any kind of acoustic accommodation at all. Number two, we didn't even have any kind of potential online. These are things that we learned. But when we were in that collegial environment where the people who were there were around tables and it was a smaller space, so it was more intimate, you could ask questions. You could have an actual discussion, which was the whole point. The whole point was not to have a presentation. The point was to have a discussion. The sound problem was a problem, and it's something that we can fix. But I don't know, that was my feeling. I mean, there were lots of errors in the execution of it, but I think it was pretty clear what they were, and they all have fixes.
And I also think that it's an opportunity to show off our schools. I appreciated that there were tables that I was able to literally on a couple of occasions go from table to table and chat with people that I haven't seen from the community. and it was pretty intimate. I agree that we then began to experience some of the issues, and if we look back and say, okay, do we really want those high tables where, or do we want them all to be low and set it up where everyone is on the same level? But I thought it was a very nice experience, a nice a place. I think an opportunity to showcase, our schools, and I think that if we were to address the issues around noise and beforehand, and I think that it can be a good space, because I don't think we're going to get 1,400 people. I think we'll end up getting a small group of people, and it makes it intimate. So I agree. I think that we should not poo-poo the space, but think about, can we make this work?
Thank you, Rebecca. I mean, I think, yeah, there were lots of things that we immediately knew could be improved. We didn't have any kind of sound thing. We didn't have any kind of sound bafflers to constrict the space so that, I mean, these are easy things that we could, microphones, these are easy things that we could do.
I think when it comes time to plan this particular event, we should designate some people to have a couple meetings, plan it, review the logistics. I mean, again, it's my process brain, the things that I saw not happening, not to go deep down the rabbit hole, because we do have other stuff to get to. But I think just making sure that we're pulling people together, we're talking the whole thing through first, and we can identify some of these issues, because that to me is the thing that didn't really happen, is it was just kind of like, oh, what's happening? So that wherever we have it, however we decide to do it, I think if we plan it and get the heads that we need, it'll be great. I am confident in this group that we can pull that off and learn from our some of the pitfalls last year.
I was at that meeting, and once the background of the compressors or whatever, you could understand what was going on. One of the drawbacks was those posts, because where you were standing, the post was in the way. But my concern would be that, quite honestly, I bet there wasn't 10 community members there. There was people there. Most of them were principals, school board members, people that were already in the, as far as community members. And us Windsor people are used to having the school and the town meeting at the same night. It was the first night that didn't happen. And I would hope that your goal would be to bring on 4 people, because I thought there was only realistically 7 people.
Dave, let me tell you,
affiliated with the school.
we have been a merged district for 6 years now?
Maybe not quite that.
So we've actually been having it. It's just been on Saturday at at the worst possible time. It's been on Saturday.
What's going on, a lot of things are in the play there.
But for the last 6 years, we have had, outside of the school staff and discounting spouses or partners. So people who are not affiliated with school board members or the administration, we have had no more than 4 or 5 people for the last 5 years. So I think this year,
I know.
we had 10 people. I was really excited because we had 10 people, and they seemed to be talking to each other about, again, the logistics were problematic, but I counted it as a huge success, actually. But let's move on to the process for appointing, process for appointments.
So I have the notes from last time, and this one, we had a conversation about it. We felt like we didn't want to set anything in stone because we're missing you and Rebecca. And I still think maybe in Megan's absence, we can kind of pare it down and maybe at next meeting have something. I don't even know if we have to vote on this, but just express that, have the entire form there, say, hey, we like this process. It's really about creating enduring material. So I'll just review the notes that I took, and y'all can
Thank you.
correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm missing something here. So the first question we had is, should the interviews be public interviews or private interviews? I think that where we landed on with one of Hudson's awesome suggestions is that we keep the interviews themselves private, but we build in an opportunity for any candidate to do like a public facing appeal, like have something built into that meeting where that way there's an opportunity for community interaction. My main concern with making the interviews public, because I was sort of on the fence about it, is really that like you end up with a temporal advantage for somebody who may have been interviewed later. If they're public, they would be able to see prior interviews and learn from them before their interview, or like be influenced perhaps by them. And I don't want that in the mix. But I do think Hudson's idea of there being an opportunity for kind of a public appeal or a public presentation, just kind of like, hey, this is me, this is who I am, this is why I want to do this.
What if we had a, like a moderated, yes, moderated / facilitated, debate?
The only,
Public? That, a lot of people would do.
the only.
What's that?
If
But
it's,
you had a debate.
yeah, I hated it.
Well, it's part of being the,
We'll never do that again.
And
It's awful.
when Hudson presented his idea, and I agree with Dave, it really sort of, as part of the interview process, having a portion of that period to be actually public.
yeah, absolutely,
that
absolutely.
People can come in and that the candidate can talk to the entire, talk about why they want it to the public, and possibly have a chance to take questions from the public. But so to combine the two, basically, I think it would be a moderated,
Yeah.
but just one candidate at a time, not all the candidates in a single group. So we would have a time when we would speak to the candidate in an executive session or privately, and then people could call in and after that to have it a public. Is that kind of what?
Like, kind of say, let's just say, Davis has 3 minutes to pitch, like an elevator pitch.
Well, I mean, I definitely think that one of the improvements that or one of the mistakes that we made, and an easy improvement, is we didn't have any kind of presentation of the candidate to, like you would in any normal job.
Right.
A presentation of the candidate to the public that they're going to be serving. And that's a terrible mistake that we made.
Like,
And I think, I know how we wound up making that mistake. But we don't ever have to do that again. That can easily be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that the public can fire questions at the candidate, but we could have a standard set of questions that we give the candidate in advance so that they can just talk about themselves to the public.
Right.
So there isn't that added anxiety of having to go from one.
Right.
What?
Yeah, I agree.
But,
It's a very anxious time, and we're trying to.
I think at some point we could probably iron out the specifics of how that public piece would work. Be it all three candidates would have that opportunity in an open session, or do it, I'm not sure what would work best, but I'm confident, like David said before, that we could figure out a plan for it, to have a public portion.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. I think it was a terrible mistake that we made.
Yeah.
And again, I know how it came about that that it happened. it just was a sequence of events where,
Unfortunate sequence.
a sequence of unfortunate events.
Sounds like a great title for a book.
No, we were short on time, we had to move fast, but that's why,
We were short on
that's why
time,
we
we
had
had
these
to move fast.
conversations when we're not.
It was all shocking. We only had 2 weeks to get it together and get it executed. I was in the throes of the State House, session heating up. And so I could, yeah, it just is a lot to have to do at the same time. And so I thank you for bringing this to our board, because then we'll have a process that we know we can just follow.
Yeah, we'll have a best practice, and it's good for this institution, but it's also good for the public, because then we can say, there's
Here's
all
what
the
it'll be.
statutory stuff we have to do, but this is how we
Yep.
opt to do it. I do want to kind of nod to Bill, you sort of took the words right out of my brain. I don't think we need to define too granularly what that public facing portion is, but I think as far as making some sort of enduring material, say that, clarify, we will be conducting interviews in executive session, but we will also facilitate an opportunity for the public to speak to or with the candidate. I think that's about as clear as it needs to be when we get there. Because I think things like, I'd also just throw out there, I don't think debate is helpful. I think forums can be helpful, because that's what Windsor and Narrow, doesn't have debates, they do forums, which is a slight but important
Oh, because the
distinction.
candidate, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So the candidates aren't asking each other questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Candidates are responding to individual
Yeah.
questions in sequential order versus
right.
talking back and forth to each other.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that, if my big reason to not fully endorse that is a schedule.
Yes.
That is a schedule specific thing, and no matter, even if we make this enduring material, there is no guarantee that within that 30-day window we have, we will be able to get however many people apply for this
Yep.
into a room at the same time to do that. And that's planning a forum, having done it before, is an additional logistical challenge.
Yep.
So that would be, if whatever group of people is here feels like they can do that, great. I wouldn't want to put that in a material making the promise that we are going to do that every time, because it may just not be feasible.
Yeah.
But saying, hey, we are going to do everything we can to make sure that there is this opportunity for candidates to speak to the public, which, I think also that has to do with the consent of that candidate, because if a candidate says, hey, I would rather not, we can't force them to, but that's,
Well, I mean, I do think that even if we don't have a forum for them, if we should agree that that's part of that, introducing themselves to the public is part of it's the deal.
I think it's a fair, I'm not saying we should try to discourage people, but I think it's a fair
Why would we wanna-
expectation for us to have.
Why would we appoint somebody who isn't willing to even introduce themselves to the public?
I agree.
That would be,
I also think that when we move forward, I mean, as we're trying to move forward with this, that when we talk about a candidate introducing themselves to the public, I think that the questions and I don't know how many, they can be as few as 3 and as many as 5. I don't know what they would be, but they really should focus on what work the board does, because I think that's really important. I mean, the public knows that the board is responsible for specific work. And so I think that the questions need to be focused on the work that the board is responsible for. So the questions should come, from the board, because the board, the candidate would be doing the work that is required of a board member to do. And as I said, I don't know if they need to be they could be as few as 3 and maybe as many as 5, but should be centered, focused on why they think they're capable of doing this type of work. And I think that hopefully that helps the public at least understand that, the work that they're doing is based on the work that is required of each board member.
So I think that brings up a good point too, is do we have our standing question list just be a public thing that is out there, so there's that understanding prior to, which
I think that's a great
I have no
idea.
problem with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea too.
Okay.
So someone could look at it and say, no, that's not what I want to do, or yeah. I can.
And also, I mean, we could, so write this down. We could also have a standing list of resources that we share with them.
Yep.
Which you already have, you know, so that it's just a packet that gets sent out.
Yeah, and that's, the important thing about all this too is that this is available year round, so even if we're not
Yeah.
an appointment, if an election were coming up or something, people can still look at this resource and say like, hey, this is all, like
This is what you need to know.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, do you, by any chance, still have your matrix of, from,
I should, I'll check in my folder, but I believe I do.
because maybe we could share that as well.
Yeah, I think having our evaluation tool, like if we
Yeah.
agree to use an evaluation tool and having that be public, I think the more shared understanding that we as a board can have and that we can share with the public around this process, like the better it's gonna be.
Agreed.
Rebecca's matrix. Other question, so I'm just going down my list here. So we did questions should be public, interviews. So interviews and executive session, but some sort of introduction that the candidate will make publicly connected to that interview. The other one, so we talked about the length of appointment, and at least with the four of us, I recall there being pretty broad agreement that we should just codify that, you know, it should be until the next election. We shouldn't be appointing people longer than that. I think that's what
Of course.
yeah. We've never written that down and said it though in an enduring material, so I think that.
It's not a statute.
No,
The
because
statute is that
when
you
we
can-
appointed Bill, it was for 3 years. And somebody had left, but
Yeah.
it was a 3-year thing.
You replaced, Bob, right? Okay.
So it
When-
wasn't for even his term, it was just for,
Yeah.
you got a full term.
And when we looked over the statute, I remember you going down the options and it was like, we can choose to appoint this person for the entirety of Amy's term. We can choose to appoint her until the next election, or we can somehow magically conjure up an election right now, which of course the third one couldn't do. But I think it was generally, you know, a kind of agreement that we should expect to appoint somebody until the next election if we're doing an appointment, so that we quickly get to a point where the public is having input on that.
Is that the next election, like we're gonna have a national election here, like November sometime, or are you saying town
School-
meeting election,
town
like March?
Yeah, the next regularly scheduled, so we would just add a candidate to
To
our,
March.
yeah, so the March one.
And really, the reality is that because we now have 6 board members, if someone resigns or something else happens that we can't do the duty, say, in February, we can survive with 5 members for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so,
That was the JP question that I forgot to ask today. So we have a 30-day limit to make an appointment, and I think you brought this question up, is it that we have to make an appointment within 30 days, or if we make an appointment, it is within 30 days, but we can roll one down if we decide not to do an appointment? I think that's a statutory question that I don't know the answer to.
I don't know the answer to that either.
My gut is that we have to make an appointment.
I think so too, actually.
Yeah, I think my understanding, at least going through and the understanding I was operating under when we went through that appointment process, is that from the day that somebody resigns, a clock
There's
starts.
spot starts, yeah, right.
right,
So-
but what if we don't make an appointment? What if we don't find anybody?
But I'm assuming we follow along the same lines of what the select board follows, like when Chris Boulay resigned, it was so close to his term being up. It was like, I think it was December, and then his seat would have been up for March.
They have different statute though.
They
because
are,
that
yeah,
when,
they're different.
I remember when James Reed resigned, they just held off for like 3 months because it was right before budget season. So I don't think that I think select
That's
boards
different.
don't have a statutory requirement to fill
Also-
the seats, whereas we do.
But also, you know, in terms of fairness, the reason that we have a 6-person board and 3 members from each town is so that both towns can be represented.
Yep.
And if we just decide to not fully represent one town,
Yeah,
it really goes against our articles of agreement. So,
But the question is, what would be an unreasonable amount of time to appoint somebody to the position?
I think we
That's
stick
kind of
with the
the question.
statute. It is not the same for school boards as it is for select boards.
I'm not saying it is, but what would be considered say we appoint someone for 2 months? Is that sort of an unreasonable process to have someone come in and serve as a board member for 2 months and then either run or not? Or is it 30 days because it's within 30 days?
I mean, I think if it's the requirement, we try to do that and we make clear when because, you know, part of this, anytime that it happens is that we are going to be able to talk to the community and that can be part of the pitch is like, you know, being clear about that. This will be a short appointment. You may, if for some reason somebody resigned in like, you know, late January, and we had an appointment being like, we're gonna go through this whole process. And then if you want to keep doing this, you got to get 60 signatures and you got to do all this other stuff. Just being clear that that's.
Well, I was thinking about having the conversation, but you're right, having the conversation really is illogical if we don't know if it's a requirement or not. So.
Yeah.
Are we required? And then, of course, there's the piece of it that Elizabeth pointed out is that it wouldn't be balanced like it's supposed to be, so.
It's all about representation. I mean,
Yep.
If we were a one-town board, it would probably be very different.
totally different.
Yeah.
Yep. So I can do.
Here's the problem. Here's a question about having the appointment only be until the next election cycle. The way it works is that there are 2 members every year who reach an election cycle. There's 2 3-year members, 2 2-year members, and 2 1-year members every year.
Not on this board.
Yeah,
Right now, is that working right now?
yeah. This next election, it'll be Rebecca and me. The last one, it was you and Amy, and then you guys, the election before that.
Right,
So
we all
if
have
we're-
3 terms,
We all have
but
3-year terms.
we rotate.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
okay.
That's what I mean.
I know, I'm just
But
clarifying.
if we are at the next election cycle, if we say an appointment only lasts until the next election cycle, we're totally throwing that off.
And there was sometime
There will then be
people.
3 people
Yeah,
running at the same time, which is a quorum. So I don't agree that we should do that,
yeah, you're right. I think they'll have to serve.
because it would permanently throw it out.
Well, is it,
Well, you'd run for.
Megan is going to be running.
We only appointed her until the next election.
Yeah, so it's you, Rebecca, and Megan if she continues, or somebody else.
But that election isn't for a 3-year term. That election is for the remainder of the term being served out. So that's going to be for 2 more years. So it wouldn't throw it off. It would throw it off for that one.
So that election, that particular
Yeah,
would be a 2-year instead of a full.
yeah. That was my understanding of.
Let's go back and ask JP.
Okay.
Wow, I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right.
Elizabeth, you're my idol. It's just to be able to think of that intricate
Yeah, I
issue.
never thought of that. You're absolutely right.
And is the question, if somebody gets elected, it has to be for a whole term, or you can elect somebody for the remainder of the term
Or appointment.
or appointment?
It would have to be for the,
The question is,
Yeah.
is there a requirement for the length of the appointment?
I think you can decide that.
What?
I think the board gets to decide that.
Well, let's ask, just to be,
Okay.
just, now we know.
He's
Why not ask?
He's so-
He's wonderful, yeah.
he's so
Well,
responsive.
there's two things to sort of explore, is JP and our articles of agreement.
Yeah.
How does that
Yeah,
decision
yeah,
fit into that?
We sent those to them. Reference them
Okay,
for our meeting today.
Yeah, we met with him today.
okay.
wow, wow.
So who's JP?
JP Isabel is the elections legal counsel for the Secretary of State.
And his name is JP?
Yeah. JP
Okay,
Isabel,
okay. So just sort of,
that's his name. For the first few weeks that I had been corresponding with him, I didn't recognize the JP part, and I thought his name was Isabel.
Oh,
And I was
that's
like,
bad.
actually, you could stop calling me Isabel.
Surely you jest. No, I'm serious, and stop calling me Shirley.
So the last thing that we brought up last time, and this is the one that I think I was the most on the fence about, was establishing a timeline week to week over that period of time. That's one of those things that I think that we'll just kind of need to come up with that each time an appointment happens. Like, my note was that I think it would come up as like, should we prescribe how our timeline works? And I think that that's the kind of thing that, like,
I don't think we can.
I don't think we can either. I think that we know, assuming that we have 30 days, which again is my understanding, whatever the constraints that we're facing at that time are going to dictate what our timeline looks
Yeah.
like. So I feel like being overly prescriptive on that and then during material doesn't make sense.
But I think you would go as far as stating that we will establish a timeline ASAP.
Sure, yeah, saying that we'll,
That's in statute. That's part of the statute.
Yes, yes.
restating statute in this document though, totally cool. It's, what I would envision for this is that this document states all the statutory stuff, and then we have our add-ons saying like, hey, this is the statute, this is what we have to do legally by Vermont state law. And my recollection is there's a lot of space in that. Within that space, this is the practice that we plan to adhere to.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, had we not had somebody like JP who we could even ask, I don't know what we would have done. We would have really been much more in violation of the law than we even were.
Well, and that's, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to do this is I spent a lot of time around that process looking for resources that existed online, and like, yeah, it was a really unique circumstance, but even just general tools to guide you through this process were very scant.
Yeah.
So, I think that we're doing ourselves a favor by doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing this institution a favor by doing it.
Yeah.
And then if within the SU people like the plan, they can adopt it in their districts, or we can put it online and people can look at it. The more
That's great.
good practices out there, the more people can take advantage of it. So just to recap, because we should probably move on, and maybe next time I can write something up and we can say like, thumbs up, let's do it.
Okay.
Pop it on the website. So interviews are an executive session, but there will be an opportunity for the public to
Interact.
interact with the candidate. That's going to be built in. That's going to be an expectation.
Yeah.
Questions are public. So the public will have access to those questions. And if we did want to change them, right, like that would also be a public process to add or take away from those. Standing list of resources are going to be attached to this document, like we sent out for the last process. We'll use Rebecca's matrix because it was awesome. And we all ended up referring to it. And then the only kind of question mark I think that we got to figure out is that appointment being, do we as a rule appoint until the next election, or are there reasons not to do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good thing to talk with JP about. I think that's it. I feel like I'm missing like one detail here.
Is the matrix, public, or is this just our working matrix?
It's public if Rebecca makes it public. But I think the idea is to use the kind of rubric matrix that you use and just have that be part of our public material and say, this is kind of the framework that we're gonna be referring to as a baseline to, yeah.
We can always change it, but just to have it.
Yeah, it's a suggestion. It's a mental model.
And I will check the articles of agreement, no problem.
Oh, I remember what I forgot. Also that we will, because this was something that we weren't sure about in practice, do we want to make public the candidates who send in letters as the letters come in, or do we want to say, just clarify that at the end of the submission period, we will at that date make them all public at once? We can kind of do it either way.
Like, when, at the last of the submission period, this is just my opinion, but at the last of the submission period, that's when we go back and that's when the board chair goes back and starts scheduling interviews. So right at that point, to me, it makes the most sense to
And make the letters public?
I guess the question is whether it would affect somebody's decision to run if they knew they had to run against somebody in particular, or whether it would compel somebody to run if they knew somebody else a particular person was running.
I think I kind of see it from two sides. One is that on the one hand, I like the idea of them all coming out at once. So it's like you have your submission period at the end of it. Whoever has decided to, it's out there. On the other hand, the letters are public record. So if somebody asks you who's submitted, like, best practice is just to say who did it. So if there's the ability for people to ask and get the information of who submitted anyway, it may just be better to, as the letters come in, maybe with like a 24-hour waiting period or something, but just to post them pretty soon after, sequentially as they come in. Because that kind of falls into kind of at least the spirit of public records, right? Is that they.
Well, and again, we could easily make it clear to people who are writing letters to the board that the letter will be made public. I mean,
Yeah, I think if the expectation is there, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't just
exactly,
make them available as they come in.
I don't know about that.
I can see both sides of that,
Yeah.
actually.
I'm on the fence with that one.
As they come in or at the end after every,
I think we set a date for announcing them. I think that because it's a short period of process anyway, so we need when we set the timeline, we need to have your applications by this. We get the applications, we announce all the candidates.
publish all the letters.
I'm processing that.
I don't know why I don't know why we are announcing people who have submitted their names. It really doesn't give an individual an opportunity to withdraw their name. I think that what the public is and should be concerned about is those people that are presented, those people that are being interviewed. I don't know about announcing everyone's name who has submitted. That's my feeling. I mean, the public, should know about those people, and they will get that opportunity when we have the interviews. And at that point, when the interview, I think that people that do interview should be informed that, this is all public knowledge. So you need to understand that from this point on, your information is accessible by the public.
Can we split the difference on this a little bit by maybe having the standard practice be that at the end of the submission date, the letters all go up. and the names all are attached to those letters, accepting that if anybody asks us, we tell them who has applied, because that is public record, right? Like, I think that, you know, and it's a small town, people are gonna say when they've applied anyway, right? So I think that maybe that's sort of the in-between, you know, we're not fully posting all the materials the second they come in. We are having it like be a little bit more planned out, but just accepting like, you know, we're not keeping the information out who's applying like under our hats or anything.
Right. What do you think, Rebecca?
I'm still of the thought that the public will know who is it that is applying for the position because they will go before the public. I think those are the only names that the public need to know. I don't know why we're going to send out, 15 names when maybe only 4 of them may be even serious. That's what I think. I think, where are we going with this? I mean, I don't, in terms of transparency, I think that we will provide them with those folks who are interviewing for the position. We're being transparent. We're giving them the opportunity. But for those who choose to eliminate themselves for whatever the reasons are, public doesn't need to know that they're, that they, but that's my feeling,
That's fair.
Midnight? No, it's.
No, I gotta leave early in the morning.
So I won't see you tomorrow.
Go ahead, Tim.
Bye.
See you later.
I mean, it is midnight almost.
Yeah, I know.
Can we come back to that
I think we can
question?
go, yeah, it's, time is kind of rolling.
Maybe we should have Megan weigh in when she.
Yeah.
So remain.
Mr. Tavis.
I'd like to thank you for discussing this, and hopefully, it doesn't become, I know that the last meeting they're talking about, everybody here is one way or another kind of got through the appointment process or whatever, but I think last time was really, really unique and sad and everything, and hopefully you won't have to use it, and I commend you for talking about it. But I disagree with Rebecca. If you write a letter with the intent, you work for the public. You don't work for the school board.
Not yet.
And when you write the letter, you have committed yourself to put yourself out there. And if you choose, for whatever reason, before the interview starts to rescind your name, fine. This is America, do it. But the public has the right to know that you are interested in the job and you are going through the process to do it. And if you don't like what the public asks you or gives you, then you're not in the right position in the first place.
Well, here.
And then, I mean, you're not gonna like this last caveat, but this was unique, it was contentious, it was sad. But I'm concerned that the person that could chime in the most is the person that's not here tonight that you people appointed.
Well, that's why we're saying.
I know,
we're
but
gonna
I
wait.
mean, so you picked a person, but if, I've been here more than that person has since you appointed.
This is the first meeting that she's missed.
Well, okay. Sure. And then the first meeting was, virtual up there or whatever. But anyway, I don't want to get into any of that. I think you're doing a good job to try to let the public at least feel that, they have some, at least observation of how it goes. And I don't think there was much of that last time, in my opinion.
Here's what it just occurred to me as you were talking that, when you hand in your signature sheets, that is your letter of intent. When you are going through a regular election, that is your letter of intent.
Yep.
And the town clerk will not tell anybody until the deadline who has handed in their sheets.
And one of the things I do want to comment on is that the public will know who submitted their letters of intent.
Yeah.
Because it is public record. I mean, these applications and letters of intent are not thrown out. They are public records. So one way or the other, the public will know all of the 15 names and we have individuals, community members that have had no problems requesting that information. So the public will have access to that information. But in terms of who is it that is applying, who is it that will be interviewed, that's will be public, and that's who the public really needs to focus on. Not on the other 15 people that had applied, but for whatever the reasons, chose not to pursue it. So again, the public will have that information. So there is transparency there. But, you know, I think that, I think that we want to focus on those and bring to the public those who have pursued it, so submitted their letters of intent, pursued it, and are here to talk to the public about why they feel that they can contribute to the community as a school board member.
Yeah, and these are people being appointed, they're not people getting the signatures. This
I know,
is
but
quite
my point is that if you were going through a regular election process,
Yeah,
you would have to collect the signatures. You hand the signatures into the town clerk, and the town clerk.
both town clerks.
Well, it doesn't matter, because the point is that the town clerk for whichever town doesn't make it public until the deadline. Like, I can't call up the town clerk and say, did Davis decide to run?
That's something that statutorily, I'm not sure what the expectation is there personally. But I don't know, I think that's kind of outside of our scope, right?
It is, but that's my point is that the letter is the same, to me, the letter is the same.
As the signatures, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Again, you're my idol.
Like, you wouldn't have the clerk announce each candidate as they handed in their signature sheets.
No, because they have to check them all.
Or they have to, they wait until the deadline.
But also the decision to run is the decision to run. It's your own personal decision. It's not influenced by who else is running.
Right.
You know?
Oh, I think.
You shouldn't run for office if that's why.
Which is why candidates announce it.
Yeah.
In some way, so that they can get the name out beforehand and get started.
Yep.
I like the idea of getting Megan's perspective on this.
Absolutely.
So I think if we leave, it seems like most of the other items here are pretty, we've talked about it, and Megan was there for the discussion on those previous items too. So she's had it, but this is kind of a newer, I don't know if this came up explicitly last time, so leaving that one a little bit open, we can discuss that as a full group. But overall, I mean, got a bunch of things.
So the next agenda, sorry to keep you so late. You're good. The next agenda, one thing that we do need to talk about is the voting machine.
Voting tabulator.
What we would really like to do is buy a voting tabulator. We used to have one. Amy got us through the process of procuring one a few years ago. Its validity expired, but it would really cure a lot of the problems that we've had if we had our own.
So you're proposing that we get our own?
Yep.
Purchase one.
So we'll talk about that we'll talk about all the details of that next time, and then we'll vote on it next time.
And and we'll have to talk about the next person who is elected in March is coming for a 2-year term, maybe, if JP says.
Yeah, that's under investigation.
And do you want me to email him on that, Elizabeth, or you want to?
When is our next meeting? Is the picnic coming before the next?
No,
No. Be the 11th of September,
Yeah.
the what?
11th.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Oh, are you away on that day though?
Well, I can always. I am 11th of September. I think I am actually, but
Because you had mentioned that you could have picked the 11th, but you weren't gonna.
no, I was gonna pick the 9th, but,
Oh.
I'll be in Nashville.
Are we doing this picnic too fast?
No,
Okay.
we don't have to come up with an agenda and all that stuff that we officially need to worry about. I think it'll be fine. It'll be good. And we could have it be an afternoon thing and have sandwiches instead of grilly things, just saying.
That
sandwiches
might
are
be good, and then do a potluck with all kinds of salads and desserts. That might be a very good thought. And then we don't have to worry about.
I started brining my own roast beef.
Nice.
Great,
Okay,
you could provide.
so
You want the intra-district choice numbers as part of the admin report, we'll get those for you.
yeah. I don't know anything else at the moment that needs to be put on our agenda, but I'm sure that things will come up. Yeah. Since we're starting the school year. Okay. I will take a motion to end the meeting.
So moved, Davis.
Second, Nancy.
For the sake of expedience, Rebecca, please unmute yourself. All those in favor of ending the meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night, Rebecca.
That was a good discussion, and I thank you, I apologize for it
It was a good
running
discussion.
long.
I'll bring it next time.
Yeah, sometimes we need to put in the extra time to mull this stuff over.
I think we should
I'll be here earlier.